From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Feeding the herd.
So whoever came up with it was pretty good idea.
Producers in Tennessee are testing out a system that they say feeds quicker, cleaner, and safer. A developing story, a large fire seen from miles around coming from a Texas dairy. As ongoing drought forces USDA to make deeper cuts to Argentina's production forecasts.
These new crop stocks are going to look bearish.
What that means for farmers here at home as we go through a new batch of USDA numbers right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clint Griffiths. Ongoing weather struggles in Argentina right now are helping to bolster soybean prices here at home. USDA releasing its latest supply and demand report, making more cuts to Argentina crops. Forecasters cutting Argentina's corn and soybean crops due to drought conditions. The corn crop down another 3 million metric tons, close to what the trade expected. The soybean crop down 6 million metric tons. That's much more than the trade average. As for Brazil, it left corn unchanged and soybeans an even bigger crop, up 1 million metric tons. Now checking U.S. ending stocks, corn and soybeans were left unchanged, but wheat stocks were higher, up 30 million bushels. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins me with a deeper dive into these numbers. And Michelle, no big changes to the balance sheet here at home.
No, Clinton, USDA left U.S. ending stocks unchanged for both corn and soybeans, which was a head scratcher after the tight quarterly stocks we saw at the end of March. And then the agency actually raised wheat carryover by 30 million bushels, but did it by adjusting feed usage instead of lowering exports. Market analysts tell me those numbers are all bearish compared to expectations, and they think USDA is just punting until the May WSDA report, which gives us our first look at the new crop balance sheets.
Maybe the USDA is waiting until next month when we're going to start integrating the new crop numbers into this, and they may be a little bit more inclined to start shuffling the old crop as we get a little bit better view ahead of what the new crop balance sheet may look like. And maybe that's when they reduce old crop stocks, knowing ahead of time that these new crop stocks are going to look bearish.
For South America, USDA was fairly aggressive, but Split says there's more tweaking possible.
USDA may still be a couple million tons too high on the Argentine bean crop, and maybe that comes to fruition in the next month or two. The Brazil bean crop got a little bit bigger, big crop gets bigger. And I wouldn't be surprised as we move ahead to see the safrinha soybean or the safrinha corn crop start to get a little bit bigger as well.
He says that's because the safrinha corn crop is now planted, and it looks like weather has been improving, which could mean a record corn crop in Brazil. And soybean harvest results out of Brazil have also been confirming a record bean crop. Split agrees that the cash corn and soybean prices in the country would signal that ending stocks are much tighter than the numbers printed Tuesday by USDA. In fact, he thinks those May-July spreads could see some new highs again as May goes into delivery, trying to incentivize physical movement of grain.
All right, thanks, Michelle. We're following a developing story in Castro County, Texas. A reported explosion and fire at South Fork Dairy Farm. Now, that farm is located near Dimmitt between Amarillo and Lubbock. Crews were called to the scene Monday night on reports some of the employees were trapped inside the dairy milking facility. When deputies arrived, they found only one person still inside. Fire crews were able to find them and get them out. They were taken to the hospital. At last report, they were in critical condition. All other workers are reported safe. Now, it's reported that the fire spread from the dairy building into the dairy cow holding pens. Officials are still determining how many dairy cattle were lost. It's not known yet what caused it. Snow is starting to melt in the northern plains, while high winds remain a concern across the southern plains. Meteorologist Andrew Whitmire joins us with more.
Yeah, let's just take a look at this temperature map behind us. And this is the reason, again, while some of us are dealing with high fire danger as well as flooding concerns across parts of the prairie. Check out Omaha, Nebraska. It could be as high as 90 degrees this afternoon. Meanwhile, up across the Dakotas, especially the Red River Valley, where they're really melting that 2 to 3 feet of snowpack on the ground. That's where temperatures are likely to get into the 50s, if not maybe even a run at 60. And that'll help continue to, again, melt that snowpack. And notice the plain states where we got those 80s, 70s to near 90. That's where the ground is dry, and that means high fire danger for this afternoon. Any fires that are started could spread quickly. It is highly advised that you put off any burning until this weekend. Let's take a look at that fire risk for this Wednesday, almost identical to where it was yesterday. And again, notice how you get much of western Kansas as well as much of the central tier there of Nebraska into that elevated fire concern. Again, that's where the soil is dry and we're still waiting for that vegetation to grow. So please do be cautious there if you do have to burn anything. And again, it is advised that you hold off. We're looking at a few wind gusts today at 30 to 40 miles an hour with relatively low humidity values down to around that 20 to 25 percentile. It does look like, though, as we head towards Thursday and Friday, that will finally start to shake some of those higher fire weather concerns, at least for this week. And check out this video from Dusty Rich in Iowa. He says this is Jax getting back into full farm dog mode. Just look at those ears flapping. I'll have more on your Ag Day forecast in just a few.
Updating you on Mexico's plan to ban U.S. GMO corn. Mexico has now established a working group to review the impact of GMO corn imports on the country's tortillas. The Biden administration has asked for consultations under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, arguing the products are safe. USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack has also rejected Mexico's calls for a study on the GMO crop safety, arguing there are hundreds of studies which signal GMO crops are safe. Now, Mexico insists its ban, which would take effect in 2024, is not a trade issue since Mexico is basically self-sufficient in corn grown to make tortillas. New information on the situation in East Palestine, Ohio. Now scientists are collecting plant samples from farms in the area to test for the presence of potential toxins. It's the result of that February 3rd train derailment. The Ohio Department of Ag is teaming up with professors at Ohio State to do that testing. Now they're looking for certain semi-volatile organic compounds which could pose hazards to humans or livestock. The samples will come from winter wheat, pasture grasses, and malting barley within a 5-mile radius of the derailment. There's no word yet on how long it will take them to publish the results. American philanthropist and farmer Howard Buffett is back in Ukraine. Now, we've been following his foundation's efforts to help feed and rebuild that country. While there, he is teaming up with British entrepreneur Richard Branson to build Ukraine's first factory kitchen in Bucha. It will produce lunches for all the educational facilities in 3 nearby communities. Now, it's estimated more than 10,000 hot meals will be cooked at the facility every day for children. The First Lady of Ukraine was on hand for a ceremony in regard to the announcement. Buffett has plans to build another similar factory in the Kharkiv region. Now, Buffett also messaged me while in Ukraine saying he met with President Zelensky and handed him a copy of the latest Farm Journal magazine, which profiles his foundation's efforts to help farmers and feed people in Ukraine. Wheat markets falling after the latest USDA report, while cattle markets continue to rally. We'll talk about all of that coming up in analysis. And later, if you buy feed, you want the cattle to eat it. Well, we'll see how producers in Tennessee are using these inline feeders to help minimize waste in the country.
Ag Day is sponsored by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator steel closing wheels, perfected in conventional, excels in no-till. Order 12 to 16 rows today and qualify for free shipping or 20% off an end zone moisture management package.
U.S. production of renewable diesel hit 5 million gallons a day for the first time at the start of the year. Now, that's according to the Wall Street Journal. It reports annual production tripled between 2019 and 2022. The Energy Information Administration forecasts it will reach 3.34 billion gallons next year. Now, that pales next to the more than 46 billion gallons of diesel the U.S. transportation sector consumed in 2021.
Grain markets were mixed after the WASDE report. Brian Grady with Pro Farmer is joining us. And Brian, not a lot of reaction to the WASDE report, but if you look at it, we did see maybe a little bit of bearishness compared to expectations in some of the numbers, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so. The market was anticipating that both corn and soybean ending stocks would come down based on the March 1 stocks estimates, and we didn't get that. USDA punted on both of those and left the ending stocks unchanged. On the wheat side of things, the ending stocks went up more than what was anticipated. But like you said, not enough to really move the market. So basically the price levels we were at going into the reports is where we finished up the day. And so not much market reaction there.
Yeah, and from a technical standpoint, both Kansas City wheat, it looked like, and maybe corn ran up into resistance, corn up in that 100-day moving average. Couldn't take that out, could it?
Yeah, and I think that those are critical levels. We got some fundamental things to sort out here, obviously, with the HRW crop struggling, historically low crop ratings for springtime. The market needs to sort out how many of those acres will get harvested, what the yield will be, what the production number will be, and those types of things over the course of the coming weeks. And so the technicals will play a greater role there in determining short-term price action. I think on the corn side of things, somewhat similar, just dealing with a different set of fundamentals, trying to figure out if we can get those 92 million acres that USDA estimated will be planted to corn, planted because of some of the flooding issues in the upper Midwest, northwestern Corn Belt, northern plains, those areas, also down in the Delta and southeast. And so that'll be something that the market pays attention to fundamentally, but the technicals will help dictate near-term price action.
Soybeans and meal trading a little higher. Is that market maybe trading a little bit like we're under 200 million bushel ending stocks, or was there something else that kind of drove a little bit of that price appreciation?
Yeah, so our estimate is under 100 or under 200 million bushels at 185 million, and so we do think the USDA will come down, even though it didn't this month. And the other factor today was that Argentina suspended or allowed exports to suspend or push back by 60 days soybean exports, and so that put a charge into the market early on, but that price spike above $15 wasn't sustained.
All right, thanks for joining us. Brian Grady with Pro Farmer. We'll have more Ag Day coming up.
AgDay Farm Country Forecast is brought to you by Calhoun Superstructure, engineered fabric buildings serving the agriculture and fertilizer industries for over 30 years. Visit calhounsuperstructure.com/AG. That's calhounsuperstructure.com/AG.
A sight to behold after all that rain in California. Check out the beautiful fields of poppies. Crowds are flocking by the masses to check out the rare super bloom in Southern California this year. The historic rains that hit the state created the perfect conditions for this bright orange explosion across the Antelope Valley. And Northern California is preparing for a super bloom of its own in the next couple of weeks as poppies and lupine are just starting to come up. Well, Andrew Whitmire joining us here with our national forecast, and as we look at kind of what to expect for temperatures over the next week or so, we see some things are changing here from what we have this week.
Yeah, we're going to get a little bit of a pattern shakeup next week, which means if you live in the northern states, don't get too crazy about planting just yet. We likely have not had our last frost or freeze just yet here. And again, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this map as we are in for a pattern shakeup for next week. And really for this pattern shakeup for next week is that Rex block pattern that we talked about yesterday. Well, that's going to break on down here as we head throughout next week and then going forward almost into the end of April. We're likely looking at a little bit cooler temperatures across parts of the northern states, the Great Lakes, as well as off to our west. Meanwhile, we're going to be looking at above average temperatures potentially down across the southern and central plains, which is not good news. This will likely end up meaning more drier weather for the central plains that really do need the moisture. Let's dive right on into this jet stream on this Wednesday. Notice again how we've got that massive ridge building up to our north, a gorgeous high pressure bringing with it much like early summer-like temperatures as far north here as the upper portions of the Midwest. Meanwhile, watching a low pressure system down across the New Orleans states, down along the Gulf Coast. That'll continue to inundate parts of the Gulf Coast areas with off and on showers and thunderstorms, even some flooding concerns over across New Orleans all the way down towards Florida. But watch what happens as we head towards this weekend. That high pressure system and that low finally works off to the east. We're going to be watching this dip in the jet stream, this trough developing here, and that'll bring with it a pattern shakeup here throughout much of the country. Cooler weather for the Great Lakes and Northeast. Meanwhile, as we head on into next week, we're going to be again watching some of that above average temperatures trying to build from the plain states, maybe even looking a little bit further north here, as we'll likely get into an omega block as we head on into parts of next week. Check out temperatures this afternoon, though. Again, checking out this map. Look at those temperatures across the board spreading their way northward. Omaha, Nebraska could be dancing around 90 degrees this afternoon. Phoenix cracking near 94, 95 degrees. Quite the warmth here, spreading across much of the country. Now let's take a look here at AgDay select cities. Monticello, Indiana, sunny, high 77 degrees. Going over to New Orleans, all thanks to that low pressure system, bringing with it off and on rain showers, a few claps of thunder, high 68 degrees. Watford City, North Dakota, mostly cloudy, highs near 60.
How much are feral swine costing landowners? We have a number next. And later, cattle producers in Tennessee are finding ways to save money and stop wasting hay thanks to a clever new setup. Details in the country. The damages caused by feral swine are estimated to be $28 per acre in some portions of the South. A recently published survey examined damages over 5 years across all of Arkansas, Louisiana, and 38 eastern Texas counties. As you can see from these maps, that's where the feral swine population has grown. The survey involving a group of 4,500 landowners. The landowners sharing their major concerns of damage, including crops for food plots in Arkansas and Louisiana. Those crops also include corn, soybeans, rice, wheat, hay, and silage, while damage to pasture was the most important to those in East Texas. Smithfield Foods is offering free tuition to full-time and part-time employees. Under the program, Smithfield plans to cover up to 100% of tuition costs for several degree and certificate programs through vetted universities. It will also cover the cost of textbooks and other course fees. Now, Smithfield CEO saying the new tuition-free program will unlock life-changing opportunities for their U.S. employees and will continue to build a foundation for lifelong careers at Smithfield. Hay certainly isn't cheap for cattle producers. Up next, we'll see how a new feeding idea is helping cattle producers in Tennessee save hay and money in the country.
In the Country on Ag Day is brought to you by Pivot Bio. What if you had the nitrogen you need already on seed? Pivot Bio is the first company to apply nitrogen on seed. The nitrogen you need, now on seed, from Pivot Bio. Learn more at pivotbio.com.
Tennessee cattle farmers are now experimenting with new technology to feed their herds, an invention that improves efficiency and just makes a lot of sense. As Charles Denny reports, University of Tennessee Extension and Ag Research are helping farmers learn about the advantages of fence line feeders.
Clean, dry hay, served not on the ground, but on this table of sorts for this beef cattle herd. This system is called a fence line feeder. The idea is to get the hay up out of the mud where cattle can get to it and no forage trampled on or wasted. There are 4 producers in Moore County who now have fence line feeders for their herds, including Jerry Ray, twice Tennessee's Farmer of the Year.
Yeah, it's just common sense. Whoever came up with it was pretty good idea. And I mean, you didn't have to spend a lot of money. I guess you could concrete your pad and stuff like that, spend more money, but we didn't do that.
About 3 miles away, Rock Creek Farm in Lynchburg, where the Jennings family has farmed since 1894, also using a fence line feeder for their freezer beef operation. Owners say if you lose any hay, you don't lose much.
With the way we've got it set up here, anything that falls, any trash or falls on the ground, they're going to eat it anyway. They'll eat it up. So it was, and it's a time saver.
There are also safety advantages here. Farmers can distribute forage from the seat of a tractor. You don't have to be on the ground, on foot, where hungry, excited cattle might knock you over.
You don't even have to drive a tractor in where the cattle are. You just put it through this gate.
Larry Moorhead with UT Extension is a longtime cattle farmer himself. When you get a lot of rain, muddy fields are difficult for cattle and farmers to negotiate. He says these feeders make things easier for everyone.
Well, the beauty of the fence line feeder, it cuts down on driving out in the pasture and putting your hay in a ring or however you feed.
Other UTIA experts are advising farmers on the use of fence line feeders, which saves hay loss and money.
So some of the things, just in rough terms, is, last winter I fed X number of bales. This winter I had this system, and we've saved, a large number of bales, and if you can start to put money onto the dollar value of those bales, it can be quite significant.
Fence line feeders seem to work well for cattle and their human handlers, serving hay from a higher point, quicker, cleaner, and safer. This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Quentin Griffiths. Have a great day.